because I gotta put my gear away. Do just what you want. You're the one I trust. And I'll always be around when I need some loving, baby. So in today's video for Ingle Mag Premium, we're going to talk about how your training needs change as you age. And by age, I actually mean sort of once you start getting into your later 20s, we need to change the way that you train. But first, I should probably go put on some shorts and then we'll head down to the lab. Whew, it worked. Sometimes it gets the pants off part, but not the shorts on part, so it's always a little bit nerve-wracking. But okay, now we're all geared up. Let's head down into the lab and chat a little bit about how your training is going to change. Hey, it's Maria Mountain. I'm an exercise physiologist. I specialize in off-ice training for hockey goalies, which means I help you do the right training off the ice so you can win more games with fewer injuries on the ice. So in my experience, as goalies get a little older, and it's not even that much older, it's sort of 27, 28, really have to change how you train off the ice. And we see this in professional goalies and you know, even recreational league goalies. When we're young, we can do almost anything and it feels great, and we can do lots of it and we'll get good results. As we get a little bit older, our body doesn't respond to that volume the same way. And in fact, that volume starts to wear us down and we're getting less return. So sometimes intuitively we think, man, now that I'm 30 or whatever, I gotta work harder. But really the answer is you have to work smarter. And that means typically less volume. So you're doing fewer sets, fewer repetitions, but keeping the intensity. So here's the other intuitive thing that people think that sort of makes sense, but is actually wrong. So they think, well, I shouldn't really lift heavy anymore because I'm, so old, I'm 30 now. So I'm just gonna use light weights and high repetitions, or I'm just gonna use my body weight and do high repetitions. Well, that trains, our bodies just respond to what we give them to do. So that trains, our stamina muscles, it trains our muscular endurance. But what you need to be a successful goalie is that explosive power, that, we talk about that 1-inch punch of Bruce Lee, that quick, powerful push. Stamina is a part of it, but we get that different ways. We don't really get that by doing, 3 sets of 12 repetitions of squats. We hardly ever do things like that. So the volume gets lower, maybe 2 to 4 sets, or to 3 would be in the middle. The volume gets lower. So for our big bang exercises, our compound leg, our compound push, our compound pull, we're going to just be working in the 2 to 6 rep range. Even for our agility and power, we're not going to do high volume, which they shouldn't be. Your power exercises, even for a young goalie, shouldn't be high volume anyway, but we're going to stick maybe 3 repetitions to 6 repetitions of those, focusing on the quality and the skill of the movement. So that way, we're not just breaking our body down, we're adding a little overload, but then giving our body time to recover. I also think it's pretty important to take 1 day off a week. Now you can still do mobility or maybe go for a bike ride or whatever, but it's not a heavy volume training day. It's more of a restorative type of day. Then the other side of it is we think about, oh, this is what I did when I was in high school or college or whatever, and I felt great. So I should do that again because I was really, really good back then, and so I should do the same thing. Well, wrong for 2 reasons. Number one, the volume issue that we talked about, and then the fact that you're not 18 years old anymore, and we can do, a lot of things that maybe we shouldn't do, but they still feel good, and that opens a whole other can of worms. But so we want to sort of update your training. Hey, what are the current best practices of training? What didn't even exist 5, 10, 15 years ago. You might go to the gym and still be doing back squats, still be doing deadlifts, still be doing leg press or the knee extension or that weird groin machine, because that's what you used to do, or that's what you've always done. And you know, you felt great in college when you used to do those things. Well, there are a lot of better techniques now, better techniques that are less wear and tear on your hips, but give you better results when you're on the ice. So let's just sort of look at a few ideas of things or just concepts that you can include in your training. And then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about mobility. For high school you or college you, your training might have included, you know, lots of heavy barbell back squats. And who doesn't like to squat? You get to load up heavy shit, put it on your back. You know, it feels good. But, sorry, I said S-H-I-T, but earmuffs. Who doesn't like that? But number one, it's a lot of load on your back. Can be a lot of load on your hips, depending on what your hip mobility is like. And it isn't really something we have to do in the crease that much to make a save. So what if we maybe instead did a frontal plane squat or a squat lateral? And we can hold dumbbells here, we can hold dumbbells here, and we come to the side. So now we're opening up this hip, we're getting a stretch in our adductor, we're loading up this hip, getting that shoulder, hip, knee, ankle in position, and then getting a nice strong push back up to the start. So we're working our muscles in this frontal plane where we have to live and move to make more saves. That makes sense, doesn't it? How about instead of doing that barbell back squat or barbell deadlift, we come in here and do a bottom up single leg squat or split squat. So a lot of our movements, and you know, the movements that are most exhausting are moving from down, recovering to our skates, or even pushing from a down position, because it's something we never train. A squat is a top-down movement, and it has a different training effect from a bottom-up movement pattern. So the place to start would be here, and remember, we're only doing about 4 on each side, so we're going to be holding a fairly heavy resistance when we do it. So we're here, we have our dumbbells, we might just start here, boom, really pushing that front foot into the floor with a bottom-up split squat. Then once I can do that with a good heavy resistance, maybe 30, 35-pound dumbbells in each hand, then I'm going to move to just with my body weight, trying to do a good controlled bottom-up single leg squat with that knee pointing straight ahead. This knee can't fall in as you come through, and everything has to come up together. So those are techniques that I preach to every single goalie I train, but some of you snuck through and you're still trying to do what you used to do, and you're not using these newer techniques that are really going to translate onto the ice. Makes no difference how strong you are in the gym. You don't stop a puck in the gym. Does that training that you're doing in the gym translate and help you do what you need to do on the ice? Does it actually help you stop more pucks? Does it help build that hip stability so that your hips stay strong and healthy for as long as possible? Because no one likes to be the guy who, you know, always has a groin tweak, always has a hip flexor, has a lower ab issue. And you also don't like getting out of bed the morning after a game, you know, feeling like someone's old grandpa. So let's add those elements, just even frontal plane movement and bottom up movement, and you'll notice a difference right away, I promise you. But as we get a little more mature, the king of all kings is our mobility. So if we can't move, it makes no difference how strong we are. We need to be able to move, and we need to be able to stabilize our joints in some of those awkward positions that we're asking our body to get into. Remember, when we're younger, we're a little more active just on a daily basis. We might be riding our bike to school, or playing soccer at recess, or playing intramural sports, or whatever, let alone being on the ice, you know, multiple times a week. Whereas now, Maybe you're sitting in the car, sitting at work. Maybe you only get on the ice once or twice a week. Yet we're still asking our body to get into these crazy movement patterns, without any preparation. So we're going to hop down onto the turf. We're going to go over a couple mobility ideas, because just like your strength training, doing the same stretches over and over, it's not going to give you a different result. You're not going to be a different kind of goalie by just repeating the same things over and over. So hands up if the RVH gives you some sort of difficulty. Makes your knee feel like it's going to explode, your ankle feel like it's going to explode, you just can't get into it, or once you do get into it, you can't get out. Okay, so there's a few of you. The key to taking the strain off your ankle and your knee when you do the RVH is actually hip internal rotation. This is a stretch that I really like for goalies because it gets external rotation and internal rotation. So we're going to start in this 90-90 position, and it has to be 90 degrees here, here, and here. Be very picky with that, because if you're like this, that changes what you're stretching. So be very, very picky. You're going to get nice and tall. Stay tall in your torso. You're not going to lie down over your knee. You're going to stay tall and just pivot forward from your hips. And you'll probably feel a stretch somewhere kind of on this back side. If you're feeling a pinch or a block in the front side, then leave this stretch out. It's not for you. It means that your joint is getting blocked, and that's what's limiting you. So if you just keep trying to force it, you could make that worse. Nice and tall, you're just going to hold for 30 seconds like that. And then we'll stay in this same position. We'll get nice and tall. We'll put our hands behind us, and then we're going to take our shoulder towards our ankle bone. This is hip internal rotation. This is the range of motion you need when you do butterfly or RVH. Same thing, we're just going to hold that for 30 seconds. And there are more advanced techniques we can use in this position, but I think if you start with that, that's a great way to start. Here's a little advanced technique, because and this is just good training. This isn't just for you because you're past the late 20s. This is for every goalie should be doing this. We need to develop strength at length. So a lot of our injuries happen because we get out into those lengthened positions, but we have no control out there. Our body has no idea how to control those movements. So here's just a really simple one. We'll go to your kneeling groin stretch. It's actually not my favorite stretch because, we're not often in this position. We're usually a little bit more upright. But I think for this one, it's a good place to start. So I'm in my kneeling groin position. I'm going to get into a nice stretch position, and I'll hold that for 30 seconds. Then for 15 seconds, I'm going to push my knees into the turf. So almost like I'm trying to pull my knees together for 15 seconds. And I'm building a lot of tension. I'm over time, I'm building, really almost to like a maximum contraction. Then for the next 15 seconds, I'm going to use the muscles on the outside of my hips to pull my knees apart. Like I'm trying to pull myself deeper into that stretch. So I'm turning on these muscles. I'm trying to pull myself deeper into the stretch. I feel my muscles stretching. It's a bit of a challenge because I'm using my muscles, but it doesn't feel painful anywhere. So that's another 15 seconds. Then I'm just going to relax. I'm not going to come out of it at all. I'm just going to relax, and I'm going to hold that for 30 seconds. So you hold the stretch. You push your knees into the floor using your groins for 15 seconds. You use the outside of your hips to try and pull your knees apart as far as you can get them for 15 seconds. And then you just relax and hold that stretch for 30 seconds. There are a million things you could do. Self-myofascial release with the lacrosse ball or the foam roll, super important. I wanted to give you a couple techniques that would be really different. If you're just like, well, like what else should I do? The very basic thing to start with, or that you could start with if you wish, is the butterfly challenge. I made it as a free app you can just go to your app store, search Butterfly Challenge. It's a 14-day goalie-specific flexibility program that's designed